Well, a good evening to all of you lovely folks out there, and
It
a warm
isn't.
welcome
It isn't a good evening.
and a warm welcome into the Why Am I a Mets Fan podcast. That's Ashley Menskowski. I'm Samantha Crossan. We're two sports reporters. We're based in Syracuse, and we're joining you tonight with some very exciting news. Kyle Tucker is headed to the Los Angeles Dodgers. According to Jeff Passan, it's true. You can believe it. It's out now. 4 years, $240 million. Hi, Ashley. How you feeling?
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, we entered a period tonight. It's like 11:45 on the East Coast. I think this news broke around maybe 9:45, maybe a couple of hours ago. We entered a period where everybody was sort of on Kyle Tucker watch. Everybody had the phones out, refreshing the Twitter page. You knew that Jeff Passan alert was coming soon. I am disappointed, but I am not surprised. I also just want to let any of our Dodgers fans that are here right now know that thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your support. But please, please spare me the gloating in the comment section. I'm not in the mood. Please go gloat somewhere else. But support us in every other way. Like, comment, and subscribe anything positive you may have to say. Thanks for coming.
Please subscribe. Please like. Please comment, but not that. Do not
Not
comment
that.
that. Comment
Not
something
right now.
else. Here are the full details. As we mentioned, 4 years, 240 million guaranteed. Opt-outs after years 2 and 3. $64 million signing bonus. What the? No, we can't
Disgusting.
curse. We're not supposed to
Disgusting.
curse anymore. $30 million deferred. 57.1 a year in net present value after factoring in deferrals, a record by 6 million plus. As Jeff Passan refers to it, a staggering deal. Come on.
I think we need to do winners first. So I think we need to discuss the Dodgers first, and then we'll get into my thoughts on the Mets. Dodgers first.
Winners.
Congratulations to you. You know, you sort of just the whole past 48 hours, I would say, everybody on social media, and not even just on social media, bona fide reporters, John Heyman, the like, were, it's Mets, it's Blue Jays, it's the Mets are going to pay him 50 million a year, the Blue Jays are going to give him a long-term deal. They could go 8 to 10 years. And you just knew that lurking in the background, the Dodgers still existed. You just knew it somewhere in your brain.
I didn't know it. I
Really?
knew it, but I didn't know it. Come
Yeah.
on. No, like I knew it, but like honestly, we sat there 2 days ago and you were like, it's going to be the Blue Jays. And
I
I was
did think
like,
that.
it's going to be the Mets. Like
Totally.
you knew, but you didn't actually think that that was a real. I mean, of course it's a real possibility, but it honestly sketched me out to your point that all of the reporters who you do really trust, like they seem like they really had a pulse of what was going on. You know what I mean? This like honestly, this felt like a meteorologist being like it's going to be very snowy and where's the snow at? You know what I mean? There's no snow
And
at all. It's sunny.
and there's a blizzard outside my window in Syracuse, New York. No, I don't disagree. I mean, the Dodgers did what they had to do. They went so it was reported that the Mets offer, Jim Duquette said, was 4 years, 220 million. That would have been a $55 million average annual value. The Dodgers did what they had to do. It's so absurd, though, and I'm not gonna sit here and act like I didn't want Kyle Tucker because I sat here on the very first day of the offseason in September and I said that the top target for me for the Mets was Kyle Tucker. So I'm not gonna take that route. I wish the Mets would have signed him. It is what it is. But it's so absurd to me that the Dodgers made this happen. And as we know in the lineup, in our opinion, I know there's Dodgers fans in our comments who think otherwise. They don't really need it. I mean, Kyle Tucker is a terrific player and honest to God, may be the fourth or fifth best hitter on his own team. He now joins a lineup with Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman. I'm forgetting somebody. You can just go on and on and on. Like they just paid him $60 million a year or whatever it is, 57. He might be fifth, sixth in jersey sales on the team. He's not the star of that team. He's not even 1B or 1C. He's like 1G.
100%. Honestly, you are right on the mark when you say fifth or sixth in jersey sales. But it's funny because you did hear about one rumor swirling around. I'm referring to all of it as rumors now because honestly, a few of these reporters are now outside of my circle of trust for a brief period of time before I
Yeah.
do go back and trust them because I have no other sources. But one thing that you heard swirling around, I want to say this was from John Heyman actually, was that Kyle Tucker was the kind of guy who didn't necessarily like to be in the spotlight,
Yeah.
wasn't really a guy who wanted to be in a big market team, but he was obviously going to a big market team. His teammates thought that he wouldn't end up in New York for that reason. So you almost wonder if because of the makeup of the Dodgers roster, if that really is the way he felt, I mean, certainly there you are going to be buried in some way. You're going to be surrounded by stars. There's going to be less pressure on you. And I think this is true across all sports. I mean, we were talking about this with Syracuse men's basketball like this week on our other podcast, the Orange Zone podcast, if you want to check it out on YouTube. Uh, Sometimes when you are being asked to do too much, or you're being asked to do things that are outside of your role, I think there's more pressure. I think you don't perform as well. Who knows? Maybe hitting behind soda, like all of those things could have been something that he was thinking about. And then you have the Dodgers. You can go there. You can play with four, five, six stars. You can have less pressure on you. Oh, and you'll probably win the World Series with them this year for the third year in a row.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't say that I don't see why it's tantalizing. And I'm not gonna ever be the person that sits here and says that the Dodgers didn't play by the rules because they did. But it is a little frustrating. Honestly, it's a little frustrating. I'm not, no Dodgers fans come at me. I'm not saying like I am always happy when any team wins a World Series. I think the Dodgers, earned everything that they got. But it does feel like in some way it's like getting out of hand. And I'm not even like a salary cap person. I just don't know what to do.
No, I think that I mean, this is going to bring us into a broader discussion, but social media is ablaze tonight with people discussing the salary cap. I mean, I think baseball needs it. I think not only have the Dodgers been a big part of that, Steve Cohen's been a big part of that. The things that the Yankees and Hal Steinbrenner have done to some extent have been a big part of that. There's definitely blame to go around, but when there's no rules, essentially, there are rules. But when there's no rules, the teams with the money are going to do what they want. And really tonight, I sit here and I think about how bad this is for the sport. And Dodgers fans, don't freak out. I know what the reaction to that is going to be. Again, I'm saying that from an unbiased sense. It's bad for the sport that Steve Cohen paid Juan Soto $765 million. That's bad for the sport too. Where the contracts are in terms of just this uncharted, Kyle Tucker is a very good player. But that's what he is. He's a very good player. Kyle Tucker, to me, unless he's 28, so maybe in the next 4 years, his prime goes along and he becomes a generational superstar. But I wouldn't call Kyle Tucker a generational superstar right now, yet he's going to get paid $60 million to play baseball this year. That is more than Juan Soto. That is more than Aaron Judge, guys that I would possibly categorize as generational superstars. My point is, we're sitting here whining, and when we have, in terms of the Mets, the richest owner in baseball, or one of them, can you imagine? There are 20 teams out there tonight and 20 fan bases sitting there knowing that they never even had a prayer in this race. And it's always been like that to some extent. The big market teams have had the money, the richest owners have had the money. But like, can you and I ask everyone to put themselves in this position. Genuinely imagine being a fan, a die-hard lifelong fan of the Cincinnati Reds or the Miami Marlins and seeing this deal. Kyle Tucker is making about as much as the entire Miami Marlins roster next season. How are you supposed to compete? Like, I guess where I'm going is, there's all the rumors about a salary cap and are they going to play in 2027? Is there going to be a lockout? I feel as though they're chugging straight towards it, to be honest with you. And I know just from a baseball fan's perspective, I don't want to see a summer go by without baseball. I don't think anybody who loves the sport does.
You took the words right out of my mouth because I was going to say, what about the Miami Marlins? Think about the Marlins
The
tonight.
Marlins.
Just think about them. I feel so sad for them, even though they ended the Mets season last year. No, honestly, though, I do see where you're coming from, and I'm seeing tweets that say things like, "Are we ready to talk about how much of a steal the Yankees got by giving Aaron Judge 9 years and $360 million?"
That was a
That is
few years ago.
this was not decades ago. So like understand that, the way at which this is escalating
Yeah.
is like inflation beyond belief. And again, it is a very touchy subject because you know who it's a great day for today? Kyle Tucker. I
Right.
mean, what a phenomenal, astonishing accomplishment to have an average annual value that high. And no one is necessarily sitting here saying that the players don't deserve to be paid because of course they do. And you want to see those kinds of deals for these players who work hard for their entire lives to get to this moment. At the same time, baseball is not as popular of a sport as some of these other sports, right? The NFL, the NBA, but it could be more popular. And in some ways, it was actually trending in that direction, thanks to guys like Shohei Ohtani and some stars who were bringing in some younger viewers and whatnot. That's the kind of thing I worry about because to your point, it's like who wants to root for a team like the Reds forever, feeling like you never actually have a chance to win anything significant. It
No.
sucks when you feel like so much of this comes down to the money. Ashley has a good point before you judge us. Think about the fact that we're saying this having the richest owner in baseball. And we're literally coming on this podcast and saying we would actually prefer it not be that way. Having an owner who's a billionaire, saying that there have to be some rules established here, I think that is worth pointing out, right? Like this is not a Brewers podcast. This is a New York Mets podcast. Steve Cohen was one of those three teams in the race. It's not even
Yeah.
like it's a Yankees podcast. He was there at the finish line. He, quite honestly, like their offer was an overpay too. And then they realized, oh my God, this is just insane. We just can't compete with this. I don't know exactly what the solution is, but it would be a more fun sport if you felt like more teams, exclude the Mets, if you felt like more teams out of these 30 MLB teams really had a significant chance of winning. You need some kind of parity to make this sport better and elevate it. Because when you think about, even say like March Madness, what makes an event like that great, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a salary cap, and I think it's coming down the line, and I'd be surprised if all of that doesn't come to a head in 2027. I mean, if you're a Mets fan, like we've been saying, you can't really sit here and be upset tonight. The Mets were prepared to pay Kyle Tucker $55 million a year. They didn't get it done. Again, I am upset at the optics because I've been upset at the optics all off season long. Steve Cohen, that tweet was funny. You had me in the first half with the what was the exact wording? It was
Let
about
me
the
know when you
smoke.
see the smoke.
Let me know when you see the smoke. You know what, Steve Cohen? You got me there for about a good hour. I was feeling positive about things. I was like, why would he tweet that if they weren't going to sign him?
Right.
I know that he might have not known what was going to happen fully, but then don't tweet that. Now you look silly for the 600th time this offseason. It is really just the Mets from an optics standpoint, the past couple of months have been a disaster like the Mets of old. And I am seeing people on social media, and this is where people need to reel it back in. I saw a couple people tonight tweet out things being like, is this the worst offseason in Mets history? Are the Mets, is the Steve Cohen and David Stearns era worse than the Wilpons? All right, like you need to just check yourself into therapy because we're off the bridge if you're saying that. You know what I mean? That's not true
Other
in
things
any
are
world.
happening in your personal life that you're going to need to address in a different kind of room, you
I
know?
know, I'm gonna need you to be so effing for real, honestly. Don't be saying that. But I do see where Mets fans are upset tonight. The whole Steve Cohen, the tweets, it was funny till he went and signed again with the Dodgers. The optics have been such a disaster, and that is something that the Mets have been known for throughout history, throughout their whole time. And I need it to stop. I thought it stopped with Steve Cohen. I did. I did. From not, Steve Cohen brought money, he brought hope, he brought a lot of things. And I thought he brought a PR and an optic shift and I stand corrected the past couple of months because he has not. They made a valiant effort, but the tweet, I could have done without the tweet because you know what? I see the smoke, Steve, and it's black and it's in Los Angeles. And also it's black in Queens because your stadium's on fire because nobody's going to come to the games next year. All right?
Well, right. She's out of breath. I don't like it when Steve Cohen gets Ashley to the point where she's out of breath. All right. The woman is sitting down. Like, enough of this. No, honestly. Oh, you first of all, you had me in the first half is hilarious.
He did.
But we need to really, really take a minute, like sports talk aside, on that tweet. I don't know who advised him to do that. I don't know what his vision was, and I don't know why he was feeling so confident. One thing I know about Steve Cohen, he's ripping his own tweets. Steve Cohen's thumb is the one that pressed down on that and hit tweet now. Could have undoed it, I mean, and he was like, no, full send. This is what I want to say. And he doesn't tweet very often. So you really did think something was coming there. Do you honestly think he just wasn't 100% sure? Do you think now he's like, yo, I should have deleted that? Like, what do you think was
Well,
good with that?
he doubled back. Well, no, he didn't double back, but he doubled down, I guess I should say. An hour after the first tweet, he said, quote, "For those who don't understand the Pope election reference, we are waiting for a decision. That's all I know." And then the Mets shortly thereafter were informed that Kyle Tucker has a one-way ticket to Los Angeles. I guess what I'm saying is the tweet was just unnecessary. I love actually the candor and the, I guess, refreshing transparency that Steve Cohen has on social media at times. But with the way that the rest of the Mets offseason has gone, I don't think you can afford that tweet right now. This is a different story if this is last year and you just signed Soto and you just went to the NLCS. And this is a different story if even this offseason you've gotten a couple guys you wanted. It's a different story if you haven't had the optics mess that they've sort of been dealing with for the past few months. And honestly, beyond that, if you're gonna take to social media, then when he signs with the Dodgers, I'm sure that was a surprise to Steve Cohen, as it was a surprise to other people. But then maybe you go on there and you say, "I'm just as surprised as you all are. Sorry we didn't get him." The fact that
Right?
it's just dead silence after that, I don't know. The tweet, I could have done without the tweet. We'll all forget about it in a couple months and it's not a huge deal, but I could have done without it.
Totally fair. Totally agree with that. As far as the Mets and where they stand now, like I agree with you. I think to be talking about you know how Mets fans are. Is it the worst of this? The most horrible that?
No.
No. But you got to admit, it really did feel like with this one player, it could have been, I'm gonna say make or break. It feels like now I definitely wouldn't say that the Mets came out net positive, at least for the moment, unless something crazy happens. I wouldn't say that I really loved exactly the way that they tried to shake things up. And I even more so now would say this is why you shouldn't have let, of all people, Edwin Diaz walk. That still actually to this day bothers me more than this. And I think that when you see the way that the season plays out, it will be crystal clear why I feel that way because he's going to do a phenomenal job there and he is going to be deeply and utterly missed here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see which direction that they go. Obviously, they were ready to pony up a large sum of money for Kyle Tucker. They were ready to give a guy who, had like an 850 OPS last year and like a, 4 wins above replacement, $55 million dollars a year. So now what do they do with that money becomes the question. And that's going to become the question for fans too. Now that we know that money was out there this offseason in a way that we haven't seen, right? There never was like a concrete, here's how much they were going to give Alonso, because I don't even know if there was an offer on the table there. We haven't had numbers this offseason. So now that that is out there, people are going to be intrigued and hungry for what they're going to do next. Do they pivot to Cody Bellinger? Maybe, because obviously Bellinger and the Yankees have been at a stalemate here for a couple of months. Does that still fill, a few holes for them? Definitely. If they were to get Bellinger, I'm not going to sit here upset. Do I want to now overpay for Bellinger because they missed out on overpaying Kyle Tucker? Also, no. And I also circle back to what I've been saying all along is Juan Soto needs protection in that lineup. In my opinion, they do need a bat. So if Cody Bellinger comes to you in some form of economical deal that you like, definitely sign him. But they just need pitching. I mean, give that amount of money. I don't know. Allocate that towards getting Scooble in a trade. Allocate that towards signing one of the free agent pitchers out there who don't deserve anywhere near that chunk of change. I think the attention has to shift to the pitching,
Hmm.
especially because pitchers and catchers is rapidly approaching.
Here's the other thing, and I'm just curious your thoughts on this. Why do you think that the Dodgers did this? Not necessarily asking why do you think they were in the race, because I think we all, of course, understand that, but to go to such great lengths, to pay such a great amount of money, do you think it is about making the Dodgers better or just ensuring that everybody else is worse? Like, what do you think was the intention behind this signing?
No, I mean, I think that the Dodgers, I know what our Dodgers fans are going to say, and it is true. The Dodgers lineup was not perfect last year. For all the stars that I did list off, their bats went cold last year at numerous times in the postseason as well. There was stretches there, in the NLCS, in the World Series, well, not so much in the World Series, but in the NLCS, in the NLDS, where you worried about their hitting. Maybe they wanted to shore that up and ensure that their lineup was absolutely as deep as possible. I mean, I don't think the Dodgers are doing it out of spite to the rest of the league, but I do think what the rest of the league has to grapple with is A, the money and the salary cap discussion, and B, the fact that when these players are given a choice in free agency, who wouldn't pick the Dodgers? And I'm comfortable in saying that. I said that a couple of weeks ago. If this decision was staring you in the face, put yourself in Kyle Tucker's shoes or in Edwin Diaz's shoes, but specifically Kyle Tucker. The New York Mets are going to give me a short-term deal with really high average annual value, or the Los Angeles Dodgers are going to give me the same thing and a little bit more. Where do I have the best chance to win a World Series? Every baseball player wants to win a World Series. That's what they grow up dreaming of. If you were Kyle Tucker, I can be honest enough to say that I'm not so sure you wouldn't have made the exact same choice. But in that same breath, who I'm most upset for Mets fans, so let's be honest. But I'm also upset for Blue Jays fans tonight because the Blue Jays thought they were right there. Nothing's really come out about or that I've seen about what the Blue Jays deal was going to be, how many years, how much money, whatever. But they were right in the race. Will the Blue Jays be fine without Kyle Tucker and still probably win the AL East? Yes, probably. But the Blue Jays really did put on a full court press. They're trying to, I guess, build up that team, build off of the momentum of appearing in the World Series last year. And it seems like, to some degree, guys are still not considering Toronto as a serious destination. I saw some people on social media, try to say that, oh, Tucker is, he's known to want a smaller market situation. He doesn't want all the pressure and all the heat, so maybe he'll go to Toronto. First of all, I understand what you're saying in terms of New York. Yes, correct. He would have less scrutiny than if he played for the Mets or the Yankees. But anybody saying that, that's also a clear sign to me that you don't know what you're talking about because Toronto is a huge city, if you've ever been there, the size of New York City. And also, we saw in the World Series last year, like you have all of Canada behind you. I get it's a little bit different, but I wouldn't exactly call Toronto a small market situation.
Fair enough. And I think out of the options he had, Toronto, New York, Dodgers, those are all teams that have large fan bases. Those are, I wouldn't,
Yeah.
yeah, I know what you mean. I guess I wouldn't say that any of them are particularly small market teams. Now, do I think for whatever reason that playing in Toronto would be a little bit less stressful than playing in New York? I do. I think that's probably because in New York the fans are more passionate and frankly a little meaner. So I think that's part of it. I really do think that in New York the lights are bright. I think there is a lot of pressure, and I think that any athlete who comes into the New York market and plays does tend to feel that way. I think even compared to LA, I honestly think that I would imagine fans there are probably a little bit nicer, a little bit calmer. I feel like our comment section actually kind of proves that on a weekly basis. But in any case, listen, I totally think that you're right. I think that the Dodgers did this because they wanted to improve their lineup. That's ultimately what it came down to. But I don't know, man. The Dodgers just continue to get better and better and better. So listen, congratulations to the Dodgers tonight, and I truly mean that from the bottom of my heart, man. They went out there, they got him. And to your point, even if the Mets had the exact same offer that the Dodgers did, I think he still would have chose to go to Los Angeles. And that's the part that hurts. I
Yeah.
don't think, I think you're foolish if you think that this is only about the money. Of course, players care about the money, and that's why you see that there are so many teams that don't even put an offer in, that aren't even competing because they know they can. But beyond the money, there are other things that baseball players care about, and winning is really high on the list for many of them. Don't fool yourselves about that. Final thoughts, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, I agree with you. You can be mad at whoever you want, but I guess don't be mad at Kyle Tucker because the Dodgers are building an all-star team in essence. And if you're a player in his prime, really, who wouldn't want to be a part of that, you know? Um, Other final thought is, we talked extensively about the salary cap, about what's going to happen in 2027, if there's going to be a lockout. The other thing is these deferred payments. I mean, listen, you can be a fan of whoever you're a fan of. I know how it works, that they have to prove that they have the money and it goes into an account and it's all set. But I think that that is also an area that needs to go into this salary cap discussion. I saw a thing from, I think it's Spot Track, that tracks payrolls and rosters throughout professional, MLB, NFL, NHL, the like. And they said that the Dodgers have something like $2.1 billion in deferred money, in guaranteed money, including the deferred money on
Mm.
the books through the next, few decades. 2.1 billion. That has to go into the discussion too, because the smaller market teams can't do that. And that I think that falls into the bucket of how do we try to, I guess, make this an even playing field, but on the flip side of that coin, last year we did see some teams like the Mariners, like the Blue Jays, although now the Blue Jays have a pretty high payroll too, get to the playoffs. So it's not to say that it's impossible for these other teams. It just, I think, is an uphill battle if you play anywhere really other than New York or LA.
Okay. This has been the Why Am I Mets Fan podcast. Kyle Tucker's to the Dodgers, and we will see you all back here when the next big thing happens. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. Really helps us out when you do that. Have a good night.